Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 87 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is part of a group of fish that many people have heard of but probably don't have a lot of knowledge about. So that's exactly why we do those videos. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is BAM, the marbled electric ray. So the marbled electric ray, or scientific name Torpedo marmorata, again that is Torpedo marmorata. It is part of the family Torpedinidae. Its other names are the common crampfish and the marbled torpedo. And I'm sure that name's ringing a bell. Torpedo, torpedo, torpedo. Well, actually, and I couldn't find exactly when it was, but torpedoes were either named after this genus or after the Greek word that gave the genus this name, torpedo, which actually comes from a Greek word that means to stun. Remember the common name, marbled electric ray. We'll get into that though. In terms of where this fish is found, it is found in the eastern Atlantic, and I mean eastern Atlantic, from the North Sea, so Scotland, all the way down to South Africa. I'm talking about all the way down to South Africa. And that also includes the Mediterranean Sea. It will get into the Mediterranean Sea as well, but just all along the coast. Just to go ahead and jump into this though, even though this is fairly common in the Mediterranean Sea, I believe it is the most common electric ray, it is still listed as vulnerable because there is not a lot of data on the actual population numbers of this. So the IUCN is being a little extra careful on this. It does prefer cooler temperatures than your normal fish. It prefers temperatures cooler than about 20 degrees Celsius, which is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. They really like to be at that temperature. And in terms of depth, that really is dependent on where they are. And if you remember, with that wide a range, and they still prefer that temperature, I think the reason why they're found at different depths, depending on where they're found, is because they try and find that optimal temperature. So for example, off the coast of Ireland, which is much a northern latitude that is probably traditionally cooler, they are found between 10 and 30 meters, which is about 33 to 100 feet. But near Italy, off the coast of Tunisia, Italy, Malta, where these are found, they can be found down to 200 meters, which is 660 feet. So I think that they're just trying to find the coolest water possible. That's my opinion. Now they are a reef fish, rocky reef fish, but they really need to be have nearby areas of sand or mud, or sand and mud mix into those rocky reefs. So it's kind of like a double habitat. They are not a large ray, not like the giant manta ray that we had done earlier in the series. These get to a max length of 1 meter, which is 3.3 feet. But most of the time you're going to find males between 36 and 38 centimeters, which is about 14 to 15 inches. Females do get larger, 55 to 61 centimeters or 22 to 24 inches, but that's still significantly less than their max length. So they do have quite a bit of growing room. And the max weight on record is 3 kilograms, which is 6.6 pounds. As you can see from the pictures, they're pretty characteristically have this mottled pattern on the backside with a very pale underskin. Just like most of your rays, this modeling is pretty I won't say unique, but it's very interesting, and there's definitely there's a lot of variability in it. And it does have this thick pectoral fin disc. It's how some rays are real thin. This is a really thick ray. And it's, in terms of skin, it's very smooth and it feels very, very flabby. That's how it is. Behind each eye, there is the spiracles. We'll just go ahead and zoom in a little bit more for you. So the spiracles are where they breathe when they are on the bottom. Their spiracles actually have these little, it's hard to see, but these little like fingers in there. Those projections almost meet in the center, and that is pretty unique. There's not a lot that have anything that goes into the spiracles. Usually they're just open holes. This one having those finger-like projections is actually fairly uncommon in the ray and shark world. Just really interesting right there. Now, also it has this very squared off nose, and what it is actually a flap of skin that is almost like pulling the nose towards it. And that flap of skin actually stretches almost to the mouth, like almost. And their mouth is very small, like really, really small. And they just have one cusp. But what's interesting is they are arranged in patterns of 5, but they are not random patterns of 5. And I learned a new word while doing research on this fish. Their teeth are arranged in the pattern of a quincunx. Again, quincunx is the name. Quincunx. And that pattern is the 5 on a dice. So the dot, then a dot in the middle, and then 2 bottom dots. That is called a quincunx. So that is how I learned a new word. Really, really cool. As far as else, they do have these 2 small caudal fins, a pretty short, robust tail, and this really triangular, squared off caudal fin, which is the tail fin. Now, with a name like an electric ray, yes, they do produce an electric shock. They do it a strong electric shock for both offense and defense. They have this, so they'll use it for both hunting and when they are in defensive mode, when they get startled. They standardly produce about 75 volts, but have a max discharge estimated to be as high as 200 volts. That's their estimated high voltage. For defense, they actually have this really neat defensive posture. They curl their body in a ring with their belly to the outside. So it basically like stick your head to your feet and make that little ball, that ring. That's what that's their defensive posture that they do. And that's the reason why, is because their electric organs are more focused on the underside of their belly, which allows them to really project that electric current at the highest amount possible. Now, I also said they use it for eating, and yeah, they are an ambush predator that uses the electricity. These actually eat small fish primarily, like 95% of their diet is all fish. And they have 2 different feeding strategies. They have jumping and creeping. That's actually the names of their strategies, jumping and creeping. They jump towards a fish that releases a shock. And that shock usually causes the fish to flinch so strongly that their backbone breaks. And then they get on top of the fish and use their disc to guide it into their mouth. So their shock can be so strong that it actually causes their backbone to break. And that's called jumping. Now, creeping, it's really, really neat. Go look at a video if you can. What they do is they just make small motions with their disc that gently pull a smaller animal closer to them, and they'll make slow movements toward them. Then all of a sudden they'll start releasing small shocks, trying to get it to just stun it until they get over the top of it and just eat it. And they do eat their small fish whole. Like there's no chewing, there's no that's why their teeth are so small. They just swallow them whole. Now, I know what you're thinking. To humans, are they dangerous to humans? Well, not really. It can be an extremely painful shock, but it is seldom life-threatening. Usually if these happen and see people that have like heart issues or things like that, but it's just very, very seldom are you going to have any sort of life-threatening shock. Now, it's going to hurt like the dickens, trust me. But now, for the interesting fact that we like to end the videos on, and I think this is a really, really good one. If you haven't kind of gathered by now, this fish is designed to not move from the top down to the bottom. They are designed to not move. These are the epitome of couch potatoes. They will bury themselves in the sand. This is the best picture I could find with themselves buried, but still actually see it. Most of the time they only have their eyes and those spiracles, those holes that they breathe through. Those are the only things exposed. They just sit there, and they'll do it for days at a time. And the reason why this is interesting to me is, you know, most animals, if they're in an uncomfortable situation, they will move. Well, these guys just still don't move. They have very, very low blood oxygen carrying capacity, meaning that their blood cannot carry a whole lot of oxygen, which is good for them because they're usually living in these anoxic environments. And they have a heart rate of 10 to 15 beats per minute. So boom, boom, like that's how fast their heart beats. I mean, they're literally designed to not move in any way, shape, or form. They consume so much less oxygen than other sharks or rays of similar size. Again, they live on the very bottom of the ocean. That gives them deoxygenated waters. They're stranded in like tidal pools as well. And what they do is they just stop breathing entirely when their oxygen pressure in the water drops below 10 to 15 torr, and can survive in that very low oxygen environment, 10 to 15 torr, for at least 5 hours. Now, I threw out that number, torr, 10 to 15 torr. That is the oxygen partial pressure in the water. And that's really hard to relate. You know, what is 10 to 15 torr? Like, yes, Ping, you have said these live in almost no oxygen. Well, how little oxygen is that? They can survive for 5 hours air torr. So the air partial oxygen pressure at sea level for just the air that we breathe in every single day. And if you live at sea level, you know how heavy it is? 159 torr. That means that they are living on a 10th. They are living in things, in waters that have a 10th of the oxygen that we breathe in every day at sea level, and will survive in that very, very low oxygen capacity for at least 5 hours. Absolutely mind-boggling to me. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Please leave a comment below if you'd like to see any fish. You know I love reading your comments. Thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And peace.